Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing on Talk 910, the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. And you guys are going to be kind of interesting to hear about one of the items that I brought in that I thought was a little unbelievable, so stay tuned to that. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm proud to have as my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing mortgage investment firm. Today's trivia theme is World War II. All right?
I wasn't alive then, but I'll do my best.
You'll probably know at least one, maybe two of these questions.
Kramer might be helpful on that one.
Maybe. We'll have to have him chime in. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show, and television, Comcast Channel 26 and AT&T Channel 99, Saturdays at noon, Sundays at 6 p.m. So you can watch us on TV at noon and then listen on the radio. Of course, there'll be different shows because Mr. Kramer has to do his editing, but that's okay.
That's true, so it won't be a repeat.
It won't be a repeat. Okay. So, Mark, give us an update, please, of real estate and what you're doing.
Well, at Pacific Private Money, that my private lending company that I've been founded in 2008, we've been in business for 6 years. We're having like one of our best months ever. So June is just on fire, and it's amazing. We just have a lot of loan activity coming in, and a lot of a very specific type of loan product that we're doing this month, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show, and that is the owner-occupied purchase loan. We call it our bridge loan, and it's for people who are falling out of conventional financing, and it's just amazing how many transactions are in trouble because the borrower, something happened with their qualifications, and we can go through some of that a little bit later. But it's a real busy June. I mean, the realtors are talking about all the listings they have, all the activity, all the closings. So, Bay Area it really is on fire, and it's interesting because, and I've talked about this on other shows, is there's this one blog that I read regularly that keeps predicting that we're at the top of a mini bubble, a post-recession mini bubble, and that we can expect pricing to ease up and maybe even go down 10-15% a year from now. But there is just nothing to indicate that that's even remotely on the horizon right
Well, I think what's kind of interesting is that your business is doing very well in June with a lot of activity, but it seemed like real estate from a sales standpoint slowed down, typical during the summer months. But why specifically is your business so busy right now?
Well, private money as a lending source is extremely important in today's real estate financing environment. And it is because, and most people don't realize this, after 2008, when we had the whole crisis and the meltdown and all the subprime mortgage meltdown, banks really started to, the pendulum swung the other way in terms of the loans they were making. In 2005 and 6, they were making loans to anyone and everyone, and we all have stories or know people who bought, gobs of property, with and just lied on the loan applications, or their mortgage brokers lied on the loan applications just to get them, a loan, 100% financing based on your credit score. It was easy. And then after 2008, the pendulum swung in the other direction, and the banks really stopped making a lot of loans that they were making hand over fist in 2005 and 6, and really the segment of the marketplace that got hit the hardest was the real estate investor. So although they made it much harder for you to buy a primary residence, they now started, get this, underwriting your income and making sure that you were actually making enough money to afford the loan, but they really stopped making loans to real estate investors, and so that gap has really been filled by the private lending community, aka the hard money lenders. So at Pacific Private Money, I'm a hard money lender, but I don't refer to myself as one. I refer to myself as a private money mortgage banker and broker. Okay. I like the softer, easier, to quote George Bush, the senior. I believe in a softer, easier hard money. But it really is in many ways. It's less expensive. It used to be a lot more expensive to borrow. I remember when I was working for my dad's development company, we'd often pay 10 points for a hard money loan, and nowadays we're making hard money loans for as low as 2 points, which is not that far off paying 1 point for a home loan. So really, we're it's no longer the predatory lending environment, and it's also now no longer the lender of last resort. which was what a lot of people referred to the hard money industry, the lender of last resort. The guys that were just making the equity-only loans. Well, we don't, we're not doing that. We're really underwriting the borrowers. We're underwriting the real estate. We're doing up to 70%. So we're really, in many ways...
You're doing just what a regular bank.
Well, and we're a little bit more conservative than the banks in terms of the equity. We want the borrower to have a little bit more equity than the banks. The banks will go to 80% regularly, where we oftentimes cap it out at 70%. But we do less underwriting of the borrower. In fact, we're okay with the borrower having glitches in their credit and all of that. But so that's why we're busier. But what I wanted to talk about in this segment is an article that I pulled out specifically for the show from the Chronicle, and this is in the business section. It's twice a week, and in fact, it starts out, it says, twice a week, the Chronicle features a local home on the market that caught our eye for its architecture, history, or character. That's the lead. Okay. So the home I'm going to share with you has neither special architecture, history, or character, but it is a blatant, unbelievable example of irrational exuberance in certain market segments of the Bay Area, thanks to the tech dollars that are out there looking for real estate.
Back to the .com where the kids in skateboards and the hat backwards come.
So get this. This home is in Palo Alto. It was, formerly, when you and I were growing up, a middle class neighborhood. It's all of 3,100 square feet. Built in 1949, so nothing special about it so far. Okay. It's been nicely remodeled, but nothing special. In fact, it says the master bathroom has a walk-in shower and jetted tub. Well, big deal. Who doesn't? Yeah. French doors that open to the garden. Okay, big whoop.
How big's the lot?
The lot is, I'm looking. It's not that particularly large. In fact, this is just a run-of-the-mill cookie-cutter residential property, 3.5 bathrooms, three bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 3,100 square feet. Asking price, again, this is in the city of Palo Alto, $5 million.
Pesos. No, $5 million for that?
Palo Alto, middle class neighborhood.
$1,600 a foot.
Here it says, don't miss the schools. That's all they can say. Don't miss the schools. So they're selling this. So I couldn't believe when I read the article. So I went and I pulled up the MLS, went to the tax area, and pulled up the information on the rest of the homes on the street. Yeah. The tax assessed value on every other home on that street is less than $1 million. And this, whoever bought and I did find out.
Did someone actually buy that house?
No, it's for sale.
It's for sale for that. Okay.
So the sellers bought the home for $2.5 million. And renovated it and has put it on the market for $5 million.
How long ago did they buy it?
I don't have that in front of me. So within the last 2 years.
Really?
So anyway, $5 million for a okay, not great, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 3,000 square foot home in Palo Alto. So
that's amazing.
I doubt they're going to get this price, but it's obvious why.
Just the fact that they're asking it is a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard of price wars and multiple offers and bids over asking, and this is just, this is, the Bay Area is full of tiny little submarkets that almost go on a street-by-street basis, and
that one's not going to be a feeding frenzy. I can't imagine going over.
Probably not, but somebody is obviously hoping to hit a home run on maybe their first and only flip. So
yeah, really, that's ridiculous. Stay with us. We're going to cut to our first commercial break here. When we come back, I'm going to ask you for the deal of the week.
Oh, we got several to talk about.
Okay. Here's our trivia theme: is World War II. In 1939, what country was invaded by Germany, unleashing World War II? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. Which country was invaded by Germany, unleashing World War II? Don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing will be right back. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn, the famous president of Pacific Private Money, California's fastest growing private lender.
And I'm not up for re-election.
Yeah, that's right. It's a dictatorship.
That's right.
Okay, we got to the first commercial break. We asked this trivia question about World War II. In 1939, what country was invaded by Germany, unleashing World War II?
Well, I only know it's Poland thanks to Kramer.
Yeah.
He gave me a hint. He started to talk about something about light bulbs and won't
That's
go any
true.
further.
Okay, so yes, that is correct, Poland. Okay, Mark,
Yes.
give us the deal of the week.
Well, let's go ahead and finish talking about what I started to talk about
Okay,
in the last
go ahead.
segment, which is how we've gotten really busy this
yeah.
June. And so the deal of the week, or actually it's the one I'm going to share with you, is one of three similar deals we all got this week, and these were loan requests by a borrower whose loan request for their bank to close on a primary residence purchase was running into trouble. And so we got three calls this week, and all of them, in fact, one of them was another fast close. In fact, I wired the funds on Thursday and closed on Friday. We got the call on Tuesday. So,
Wow.
and one of them's to the tallest borrower we've ever made a loan to, 7'2".
Really? Is he a famous basketball player? Or?
7'2" with an 801 FICO score.
Wow.
Not a basketball player, no, interestingly enough. And his situation was that he had multiple businesses and multiple LLCs, and he had money deposited in all kinds of different business banking accounts. Now, this is the second time we've had a situation like this. He is thoroughly bank financeable,
Yeah.
but at the last minute, the bank got uncomfortable
Yeah.
with the fact that he didn't have all of this money in his personal checking or savings account. So it was a source of funds issue that
Yeah.
somehow or other, as loans are getting approved, as they go up the flagpole for the approval
Well,
process.
I wonder if they think that there's some unsavory things going on, or they just don't think he's, either legitimate or organized.
You know,
What do you think is from a bank standpoint? What's their issue?
well, I don't actually come from, and you know this, Ed, right? I don't
Yeah.
come from the banking or conventional mortgage loan origination industries. I come from real estate development, so I came into lending
Yeah.
actually from the other side of the table, which
Yeah.
is one of the reasons why I think our company excels, is that most of us in our company are actually experienced real estate investors, and so we kind of speak the language
Yeah.
to the people we're making loans to. Although in this case now we're talking about primary residence acquisitions that are stumbling thanks to the tougher banking regulations now. But so you'd be asking me really at this point is to hazard a guess, and when I ask the broker who calls me, because
Yeah.
it's his client, saying, "Hey, can you help, save my client's deal?" I asked the question you're asking me: is, what is it with the banks?
Well, first
And
of all,
they really don't have an answer.
what's the price of the house that he's buying?
So it's a $350,000 loan on, I believe, 500. I'm sorry, I didn't bring all
Okay,
the
so
specs.
so
but
70%.
Basically, yeah, all
70%
the loans
value.
we're making this week, all of them. Actually, the second one was the one to the. Another loan we did was actually 55%, so that was actually an exceptionally
Wow,
good. So it's a
that's good.
$500,000 loan on a 55% loan to value. I think the purchase price is like $905. It's
Okay.
just kind of an odd amount. So
there's real skin in the game. A
real
lot of
skin in the game
by these guys.
Yeah.
They
So
can be
so
farmed.
this product that we started promoting about a year ago, and it's really taken off. In fact, when I did an email blast last week to my network of referral brokers and realtors, I immediately got about a dozen phone calls for people who said, "Oh, I'm so glad you called. This was on my desk." And it's kind of funny when I get that call, I'm thinking, well, why didn't you have me on speed dial before? It's like, because it just, we're all busy,
Out of
right?
sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. That's exactly right. I have to keep reminding people, hey,
Yeah.
even though the private money lending industry over the last 5 years has been mainly focused on people who are buying, fixing, and flipping investment property or collecting rental properties or maybe commercial properties, we're now really coming back in a big way to help the consumer in this new Dodd-Frank era of very tight and restrictive lending policies. And so there's just, maybe in the grand scheme of things, of all of the real estate transactions that are happening on a monthly basis, the people that are calling me in a panic are probably a very small percentage. But if it's your transaction. And you've
It's
got
the
a
most
deposit,
important thing.
right?
Yeah.
If you've got a $25, $30, $50,000 non-refundable deposit, and all of a sudden you find out the banks is going, whoa, wait a minute, we're not going to be able to close for you in time, and the seller is saying, hey, I've got 3 backup offers, and one of them's all cash, and I gave it to you because
I'd love to keep your non-refundable deposit and move on.
That's right. So it's really it's almost like a this is business type of atmosphere where I get these calls and I feel for the people and more often than not it's they've got money in the bank, they've got a high FICO score, but there's something going on. And in one case we talked about on a deal we did a couple of months ago was the fact the guy was making gobs of money, had a great FICO score, but he was in the middle of a divorce, and he was looking to buy a property, happened to be in Napa, and he couldn't close because the bank couldn't get comfortable with the fact that regardless of the fact that he made more money per year than the amount that we were lending to him.
I love that.
He was going through a divorce and it wasn't finalized yet. And they were saying, look, we can't make you this loan until it's final. Well, he knew it was going to take another 6 weeks and he was going to lose a $50,000 deposit if he didn't close. So he came in. So I know that the borrowers, these are mostly consumers. These are not necessarily real estate investors. So oftentimes they'll get a little sticker shock, to put it bluntly.
Well,
to put it mildly, I should say.
Share with the audience what you would charge, or what do you charge Mr. 7-footer?
Right, exactly. So I was gonna go there. So basically, our owner-occupied bridge purchase loan program, as we call it, it's 9.9%. It could be lower. It could be 8.9 on a lower LTV, but generally it's 9.9% note rate. The payments are interest only because it's a short-term loan, less than a year. The points are 2 to 3. So on a larger loan, we'll go down to 2. On smaller loans, if it's 2 to 300,
No
we'll get 3
prepayment
points.
penalty.
No prepayment penalty. So yeah, it's a little bit of a it hurts to know that as a consumer.
And your motto is "Give till it hurts," right?
Give till it hurts, right?
Your charity.
Yeah. So it's an option, and for the most part, when we help a family close on an otherwise endangered transaction, regardless of the fact that their first reaction to the pricing is to go gulp and or maybe a few other choice words. Usually by the time we quit, but by the time we close, they're pretty happy.
Okay,
again,
so you don't need to wear a bulletproof vest then. Okay.
Yeah.
Just when you quote them, not when you actually give them the money.
Yeah. So for more information, we're talking about private money as a source of financing for real estate acquisitions, whether you're buying, fixing, and flipping, whether you own income property and the bank is no longer interested in giving you a cash out loan. We do those all the time. Commercial property, multi-unit, like any 1 through 4, even 5, 6, 8 units, duplexes, fourplexes. Like I said, purchase, refi, and we've been talking about the consumer bridge purchase for people who want to buy a house and their bank is making it difficult for them. Give us a call at Pacific Private Money. And we're really good at just listening to your loan scenario and telling you literally within a minute. We can tell you approximately what pricing if we can do it. Number one, and number two, if we could, here's what we think the pricing is. We're really good at drilling down and telling you within a very close margin, and more often than not, whatever price we give you over the phone, that's when we end up closing at. Because again, we do this a lot.
No, I know you don't
really
bait and switch.
Well, and we know the Bay Area really, really well. All of us are natives of the Bay Area. It's the only place I've ever lived and worked in. I've been in the real estate community, business community in the Bay Area for 32 years now, and so I know the neighborhoods, and we lend all over from Santa Barbara all the way up to Redding and up to the Tahoe. In fact, we closed a Tahoe deal, a nice home in Truckee, actually, not Tahoe, but last week. So again, give us a call. Never any obligations, never any upfront fees. We're really easy to talk to, and we'll just tell you exactly what we think we can do very quickly. We won't waste your time.
And when we're going to go to our second commercial break, and when we come back, I want you to tell the audience if they wanted to invest with you, because those high interest rates. It's like, well, if I'm on the other side and I've got money and I want to invest, I'd like to be able to participate. And you do allow investors.
Right. So let's the next segment. Let's talk a little bit about being a private lender because we've got an event coming up in just under 4 weeks that you can come and have some good food and drink and listen to a nice little presentation in a beautiful area.
No, not only no obligation, no charge too, I believe. Okay, but actually before we, no, you know what? Let's go ahead and just cut to the second commercial break. Again, the theme is World War II. You ready for this one?
Mm-hmm.
On what ship was the final surrender of Japan signed? The USS blank. Okay. The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. On what ship was the final surrender of Japan signed? The USS, and then fill in the blank. And don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing will be right back.
I bet Kramer knows that one.
You know that one, didn't you?
Oh.
Yeah, what are you doing there, my friend?
I'm sending a live video to my friend.
Oh, live video. Which friend?
My lady friend.
Oh, a lady friend. Hello, lady friend.
Okay, somehow.
Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hunt, president of Pacific Private Money. When we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question regarding World War II. On what ship was the final surrender of Japan signed? The USS?
I wanted to say Enterprise, but that's the only one I know.
Captain Kirk! He was not there, my friend. He was
there's
not
a real
there.
ship called an Enterprise, isn't there?
Actually, I think there was. No, the USS Missouri. We told the audience that when we came back, we were coming back, we were going to tell them how they could actually be on the other side of the equation to actually earn some good interest for being a private lender.
One of the reasons why I like referring to our industry and to my company specifically as private money lenders is because in a way it advertises the fact that we use private individual capital to fund our loans. We are not a bank. But we're not unlike a bank, because what does a bank do? A bank collects deposits and lends those out. Now the banks have, additional access to capital. They can go to the Fed, the Fed window and get money for next to nothing, and lend it out for, at 4 or 5% and make a huge spread, which is another story. I mean, that's they're happy to make home loans to consumers. It's one of the most profitable things they've been doing. In fact, they're making a higher spread today in their home loans than ever before. And but on the private money side, being a private lender is a lot easier than most people realize. In fact, most people, I would say, aren't even aware of this incredible opportunity referred to as, part of the alternative investment category of investing, which includes like buying real estate, buying other, mineral and oil and gas and those types of things. But unlike those, it's, in my opinion, much safer and much more secure, because when you are the bank and you're making a loan, you're really not making an investment. You're creating a financial instrument. There's collateral. So when the bank makes you a loan, even if they're lending you 80% of the purchase price to buy a home, it's a contract. It's a promissory note that you sign to pay them back with interest, and the security is recorded against your property. So they're not in a position, unless the real estate market changes significantly, they're not in a position to lose money. And that is the classic business model for the banking industry. So in the private lending industry, what we do is very, very similar. We have loan documents that are, for all intents and purposes, identical to those loan documents used by the banks. We have a promissory note. We have a deed of trust that's recorded in the county where the property is located, and then a bunch of other supporting documents. Because as you know, when you walk into a bank and sign a loan nowadays, there's about 75, 80 pages worth of stuff. We too have quite a small bundle of papers, and again, a lot of that is because we're now a fairly highly regulated industry. It's not the Wild West when you go borrow from a private money, aka hard money lender anymore. So. How do you be the bank? Well, I started my business in 2008 largely using the money of people who had been and done private money loans before. And a lot of times these are people who have like real estate experience. In fact, my first 10 investors were all like retired realtors and real estate professionals who knew real estate, were comfortable with it, and loved lending on it, and they thought this is the greatest secret that nobody knows about. I can make 10, 11, 12% back in the day, not so
Yeah.
much anymore, but I can make 10% by lending it out, and it's secure, and I'm
Yeah.
only lending out 50, 60, 70% of the value of the property. Well, nothing's really changed in that regard other than,
The interest rates.
the interest rates have
Yeah.
gone down a bit, but not that much. And we're routinely paying 8% and sometimes more to our private individual investors,
Okay.
which now include just
Normal
normal,
people. Yeah, you
everyday
don't have to be
people
real
who are
estate
not
investors.
real estate experts. That's the beauty of private lending today, is that because we've been in business, because we've got the reputation we do, we've done 700 loans, over 150 million in fundings. Only 2 of those loans have gone to foreclosure, and no one's lost any money investing with Pacific Private Money in any of the loans that we've originated.
Well, this fund you have is almost like a mutual fund.
Well,
of-
and so in 2013, we started, in addition to the individual trust deeds that we were originating and putting private individual capital to fund those, we decided it was time to launch a mortgage pool fund, which we did in 2013. We call that the Pacific Private Money Fund. And so we have been paying, we have been on a cash-on-cash monthly distribution basis. Our investors are getting 8.25%, and those who are allowing the money to sit in there because they don't need the monthly
Reinvest it,
income, it's
yeah.
compounding, they're earning 8.56. The host,
That's
well, and
it.
that's why we call it the best of investing, because quite frankly, in all honesty, I do believe that private lending is among the best of investing that's available today in this near zero interest rate environment. And hey, the stock market's doing okay, but is it, how much longer is it going to keep doing what it's doing?
I
mean,
don't know what my crystal
people
ball
are nervous
shows.
about it.
Okay, we're going to cut to one more last commercial break. When we come back, I want to get into an article that I thought was very interesting about negative interest rates. And then we have an email we received from a listener for Mark that he will answer.
Very good.
Okay, so the theme is World War II. Here's the last trivia question. Forces from what country completed the capture of Berlin on May 1st, 1945? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Call 888-912-1190. One more time, that's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. Forces from what country completed the capture of Berlin on May 1st, 1945? And again, don't touch that dial. When we come back, we got this very interesting article and an email question from a listener. You're listening to The Best of Investing. We'll be right back.
Poland.
Welcome back to The Best of Investing. Last time, I'm Edward Brown, your host. Not last time, forever, just for the show. With my famous co-host, Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money. When we cut to the third commercial break, we asked this last trivia question. Again, the theme is World War II. Forces from what country completed the capture of Berlin on May 1st, 1945?
As those fun-loving Russians.
Fun-loving Russians. Exactly, that's what it says here. Fun-loving Russians. Okay, yeah, let's see. Okay, so now here's this article I found. It said the European Central Bank's historic step announced Thursday, this was a couple weeks ago actually, slashing its interest rate on deposits to negative territory at 0.1%.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and that caught the attention of U.S. advisors, but whether it'll...
Don't give them any ideas.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, so now we got to pay someone to hold our money.
Well, that's what a checking account is, right? I mean, you put your money, unless you have interest,
Just,
charge-free
charge-free,
checking,
yeah.
but I don't. And so money I keep in my checking account goes down every month, whether I
By a
use
service
it or not.
fee.
Yeah, by a service fee. So negative interest rates.
Yeah.
What do you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. Okay, Mark, we received an email from a listener. It says, what can I do if I'm not an accredited investor? So this person obviously knows a little bit.
Well, that's a perfect question to kind of dovetail off of our last conversation. So what we didn't get a chance to say is that certain investments in the private lending arena require that you have a certain qualification, a financial qualification. And this is a government mandate on us. So for example, in our money fund, the Pacific Private Money Fund, which is a mortgage pool fund, that's the one we talked about that's paying little over 8.25 on a distributed monthly basis. We can only accept investors who meet the financial threshold of accredited, and that's a term used by the SEC. An accredited investor is someone who has a net worth of at least $1 million, and you're not able to use the equity in your home in that calculation. So it has to be $1 million, not including the equity in your home, or you have to make $200,000 a year or more if you're single, $300,000 if you're married. So that's the qualification to be an accredited investor, and that happens to be our qualification for you to participate in our mortgage pool fund. However, if you're not accredited, meaning you don't qualify under any of those two thresholds, the $1 million net worth, not including your primary residence, or $200,000 a year in income, you can still invest in real estate related products. In fact, you can invest in individual notes, which is gaining in popularity and actually, truthfully, becoming harder to find quality first position notes that you can invest in as an individual. Hence I think the pool is a much easier way to invest for most people nowadays. But if you're not accredited, it's not your fault, and you need, if you're looking for another option, we do work with non-accredited investors, and we put them in, or we give them investment options in terms of individual notes. And these individual note sizes can be anywhere from $50,000, all the way up to over $1 million.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I've talked to people about hard money loans, investing, they go, I don't want to invest in seconds. They don't realize that
that is the old dated idea of what a hard money, because most hard money loans before 2005 were seconds, or many of them, I should say. And in fact, the hard money lender, and when you're thinking about, a lot of people, when they think about hard money, they go, oh yeah, you're the guys that make seconds to people in distress.
Yeah.
Which, again, used to be a significant part of the business model. Is someone would, a homeowner, who's against the ropes financially, something's going on, and they want to borrow against the equity in their home, and oftentimes with no idea or plan as to how they're going to repay it, the lender at that time didn't care, because you had the equity, you want to borrow against it, you're a big boy, I'll make you the loan, you don't pay, I take your house. Well, let me just tell you, for the most part, those loans now are illegal.
Wow.
So I can't make a second on a primary residence to someone who can't afford the monthly payments. That is now no
That's
longer,
the criteria.
that is illegal under the new Dodd-Frank anti-predatory lending regulations. So here's the flip side. I got a call last week from a couple who are on Social Security. They live in Marin County. They have a small remaining balance on their mortgage, and they have over $1 million in equity in their home. They wanted to remodel the home and sell it and downsize. Well, when we did the calculations, we could not make the numbers work. Their income was insufficient for them to qualify under the debt to income ratios. Many of you listeners may have heard the term DTI ratio. That means debt to income. That's a calculation that we are obligated to make now on all loans to a primary residence, to ensure that we're not making a loan that the borrower can't afford to pay. So here's a situation where they want to borrow the money. They could have borrowed enough to basically
just pay off the first.
And you could even, we used to make these loans. If someone didn't have the money to make the monthly payments, we would just make them a slightly larger loan, build in or bake in maybe 6 months worth of interest, because they're going to remodel the property and sell it.
Yeah,
right?
makes sense.
Exit strategy. Now that loan is no longer legal, and I don't know that that's necessarily in the best interests of all consumers. So again, double-edged sword, all of this stuff. There's no perfect solution for,
Tell him to get a part-time job, making $100,000 a year, then he's got the income
right.
for it.
So getting back to the what if I'm not an accredited investor, can I participate in private lending? By the way, you may have heard the term trust deed investing or note investing. Those are all really the same things as private lending. It's used to describe the fact that your money is being used for a loan, for a promissory note, and secured by property, and if you invest with us, to be property in the Bay Area. I do want to add one more thing. It's a lot of people in this business, in my business, in the private lending business, who are brokers, will allow you to participate fractionally in a loan. Let's say you have $50,000
Yep.
and you love the idea of making 8 or 9%, maybe even as high as 10%, depending on the note rate and what the broker is offering you. Maybe the loan is $250,000, and maybe he's going to put 5 people in there at $50,000 each, or maybe he's going to put 2 people at $200 and 1 person, at $50. So there are ways you can participate fractionally. Again, for more information on all of this, there are actually some good books out there that you can get on the internet about private lending, or trust deed investing, as it's typically called. A trust deed, of course, is what we call a mortgage in California.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. Okay, here's our thoughts of the day. The movie, As Good as It Gets, was translated in Chinese to Mr. Cat Poop. I don't get it. I don't understand.
That's like those tattoos on the backs of some girls. They think it means peace, but it really means something else.
Something else, okay. And when Buzz Lightyear went on a date with Martha Stewart, he took her to infinity and Bed Bath & Beyond. That's pretty bad. Okay. Tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. And today's trivia theme is the Beatles.
All right.
All right? Okay, all right. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. And we're also on television, Comcast Channel 26 and AT&T Channel 99 on Saturdays at noon and Sundays at 6 p.m. And lately some people have been coming up to not only you, Mark, but me and a couple of other people saying, I've seen you guys on TV.
That's
Where
right.
have I seen you before?
People are watching.
They are watching. Now, Catherine, right away, you are coming in with some excellent information about college.
Well, it's a topic of conversation. It's
It
been
sure
the
is.
conversation I've had today just with a client. So, and I ran across this article on the internet. And the title is "Don't Go Broke Paying for Your Kids' College," and it talks about
Can I raise my hand on that? People in this room are going broke, putting their kids.
I already am.
Oops, too late.
For my 5-year-old, I'm already trying to That is apparently it's supposed to be my retirement. But
Yes.
it talks about there's this they call it a sandwich generation, with many boomers who are trying to support their aging parents, pay for college, and try to fund their own retirement account. And
Wow.
what they're
forget
being
about
squeezed.
That is
It's a big squeeze.
you nailed it right on the head. I mean, I can
Yep,
that's
yes,
all,
yeah,
folks. I can
that's
relate
it.
to
I
that.
resemble that remark.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the client I spoke to today was talking about he had his son who is in graduate school, and they were trying to decide. He has entered into a couple student loans right now, and they were trying to decide if his parents should pay it off because he wasn't getting the interest rate that his son is paying on his private loans, which are around 6-7%.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great rate of return for me.
Sure.
But then, of course, he said the downside is that my son owes me money.
Yeah, but if his son's going to be responsible and going to be paying it anyway, might as well. In fact, I remember my student loans were at 3% when interest rates were 20%. They were just giving
Wow.
students a fantastic deal. Yeah.
And was that all private, or was that all governmental, or was there
Yeah.
private industry in that as well?
No, I think that was just strictly the government back then in the early '80s. So yeah, it was one of those just fantastic deals where it's like even if you didn't need the money, you borrowed it anyway.
Well, that's how you would borrow money rather than getting one.
Yeah,
that was
and
at
stick it in the
20%.
bank at 16%. Yeah.
So I love that analogy, the sandwich generation, because it's so true. So, in the Bay Area, you could be making $250,000 a year, which would qualify you to be be a 1%er, right?
Yes.
But like a lot of us, and Edward, you and I are both baby boomer age. Catherine, you're not quite with us yet in
Not
that
yet.
group, but
Not there.
but I relate to having to take care of your aging parents financially, and sometimes there's a sibling or two involved therein, and the incredible cost of college is just unbelievable. And you could be a 1%er and be feeling pretty broke in the Bay Area.
You know what?
Definitely.
We are the sandwich generation now because that's all we can afford to eat.
Exactly.
Bologna sandwich.
And then once you
That's right.
add in the implications of tax,
Yeah.
because you find that people who who make less than the 200,000 often qualify for various credits, but and usually don't get a lot of benefit during that 200 to almost $1 million range. But once you start making more than $1 million, you're there's
Well, you don't
some
care
you
anymore.
It's
It's
yeah, we don't
money
care
around
anymore.
it.
But
You're
it
right.
doesn't pinch you as bad. But
Yeah.
I agree with you that there is there's a window in there that especially in the Bay Area, and it hurts because it's almost like a living wage. You're doing
Yeah.
well, but it's not like you're going out to dinner every single night and doing
Well, because
wonderful
housing
trips.
here is pretty expensive, so that's a major part of your income
Yeah,
and taxes.
add that to the little list of
Sure.
add housing prices and taxes
And
to it.
sales tax. I mean, here in the Bay Area,
It's
sales
10%.
taxes, are
Yeah.
around 10%.
But you're right. So you make more money, right? If you can, and some of us do. We work harder and we do different things, and we make more money. And now all of a sudden, the grants and the loans that we qualified for to help put our son or daughter through college, now we don't qualify for that. So it's this double-edged sword. It feels like you're constantly swimming upstream with respect to the education part of it. It's amazing.
You do feel bad. And I remember going through college. My parents were reaching retirement age, and my father got disabled. But the criteria to qualify for various grants and for financial aid is such that if you are under the age of 24 and don't have a child, weren't part of the military, you must disclose your parents' income, regardless if they pay or they don't pay, or if they support you or don't support you. So it's
Wow.
one that really you're fighting the battle in any way you go. Sometimes you have parents who've got the income to support you, but it's while they're also trying to, in theory, these are the glory years in the sense where you should be traveling and being able to have no one at home where you can save a lot of your income, banking your income for retirement, and that just isn't the case anymore.
So what is one to do?
Well, this article suggests start saving earlier, which is why I'm already in debt.
Too late.
Yeah, well, it is
That
too
ship has passed.
Well, they suggest is for parents is not to fund your children's college accounts or to fund their college tuition. Have them go out and get the student loans, and then turn around and it does make them maybe a bit more responsible or accountable for
Sure.
the debt. It makes it more real. We
Yeah.
live in a real, non-real, tangible society anymore. Cash just doesn't have the feeling. People just think put it on the credit card and
Yeah.
it's
Well, also,
deferred.
if the parents keep bailing out the kids, and kind of started, it's too easy, especially when you're, when you have like here, you've got a daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they give you they bat those baby blues. Oh, Daddy, I love you.
I spent my allowance already. It's only the 10th. Can you help? The Army
then-
Reserve is sounding better and better every month.
Yes. But there is, and then on a completely different topic, is the people who are borrowing from from student loans is where they get a distorted reality of what's to come 10, 15, 20 years from now. They may hear when they go into a financial aid office, oh, you borrow it and you can pay it back, or you can pay it back based on your income, where it's
Yeah.
income based, and hey, after 20 years, if you don't pay it off, it's forgiven. Mind you, yeah, Edward knows, it may be forgiven, but usually what comes with something that's forgiven is a tax bill.
Yes.
And
Debt
usually by that
forgiveness.
time, the interesting that's compounded, the tax bill is darn near close to what you just borrowed for student loans.
That's a good point.
That's
a good point. So don't
It's a way to
cheat the
defer
government.
it, but you can't avoid it.
a lot of things in life like that.
Go, yeah,
Exemption for
well, I'll just
taxes.
die. I'll show you.
That's right.
And guess where they're gonna go?
The estate. They'll come to my grave and pick my pockets. Okay, we're gonna we're gonna go to a quick commercial break here. The theme is the Beatles. All right.
All right, I'm ready.
In the late 1960s, one of the Beatles was rumored to have died. Which one? Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. In the 1960s, one of the Beatles was rumored to have died. Which one? All right? Don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn and Catherine Harris, CPA. Always have to say CPA at the end of that.
You do.
It's kind of a title, yes.
I worked really hard for that.
Yes, you did. That's a very hard exam. Practice is 2 parts, audit and theory. Is this still that way?
It is. There's
Wow.
4 parts to the exam.
Yeah.
They made, I think, did you ever try taking the exam?
You know what? I got close on all parts, but I didn't pass any of them. It was, my dad had died 6 months before, and I had to get his estate in order and stuff,
Oh.
and so I didn't have any time to study.
They've made it easier, so you can basically take one at a time.
Ah.
Where you used to have to sit and take all
You
at
young
once.
kids don't
Yeah.
know what it used to be like.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's funny because I do have my Series 7 license, which is a very hard exam too,
It
but
is.
not as hard as the CPA exam. Okay, the commercial break that we just took, we have the trivia theme is the Beatles. In the late 1960s, one of the Beatles was rumored to have died. Which one? Catherine?
I'm gonna guess Ringo.
No.
Darn.
Paul.
Paul McCartney. That's right. Okay.
Paul is dead.
It's okay. Yeah,
But it was not true.
It wasn't true. Yeah, what they had? Is it the White Album, the one that they're walking across the street, and there's all kinds of hints, like
He wasn't casting a shadow.
Something. Yeah, exactly. And he's the only
Oh
one.
my.
He's the only one barefoot. And then there's a little license plate that says like 49 if. Like if he had lived, he would have been 49. There's all these kind of fun little things because the Beatles.
Oh,
just
do they
took-
play on
They
it? Is
play
that
on
what
it
it was?
exactly.
Okay.
I don't know where the rumor started.
People are
but
just weird.
Yeah, they just played on it. Mark, you got an interesting article for it. Share it with us.
Yeah, so last week we were talking about how, real estate prices are up, inventory's down, unit sales are up, the housing market looks strong and it's tight and prices are, going up, and what's going on. And then there's this article from First Tuesday, which is a California-based real estate educational organization, and their site, which I subscribe to, has a number of interesting articles every week and throughout the year. And I don't always agree with many of the articles they post. I think they have an interesting slant, and I'll share a little bit with that with you. But it's predicting that prices are going to top out in the second quarter, which we're in right now, of 14, and that we could see, and this is a prediction for California as a state, not necessarily the Bay Area market, because we know we've got micro markets in the Bay Area that have other things going for them that would maybe preclude this from happening. But they're predicting that we are in a mini bubble, and that between the second half of 2014 and 2015, that they're projecting, based on these graphs and charts that I've brought with me here
In color, too.
in color, that prices are going to go down between 10 and 15%.
San
Good
Francisco,
point.
they I think exceeded New York City as the least affordable city in America.
Yeah.
So I can see
Thanks
that.
to our tech titans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it and it really is is it a real and it usually is very, at least in the Bay Area, is very strongly correlated to any bubbles in the tech industry,
Yeah, good
because
point.
usually with the tech industry are people who are coming in with high compensation or really
Yeah.
strong stock option portfolio.
Well, I was
so
gonna
if
say,
they
there's
were
a
to
lot
go
of VC
to
money,
public.
VC
Well,
money
look,
coming in.
and look what happened with Twitter.
Exactly
So
that.
Twitter, the
Yeah.
6-month expiration for holding the stocks
Yeah.
expired a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And we all read that, well, the Twitter stock went down 18% because of the sell-off, but which was noteworthy. But what was more noteworthy was all of that new, fresh billions
Yeah.
that were minted for all of those people who did sell their interest in Twitter stock. And of course, there was a comment in the article about how the local high-end real estate brokers in Marin and San Francisco were rubbing their hands with glee because they
Yeah.
knew there were going to be a fresh batch of home buyers looking at their high-end homes. And if
Yeah.
you look at things
Kids
like
with
Marin,
skateboards.
Yeah,
like in the old
exactly.
days.
pick up a Marin magazine and flip to the back and look at all the homes they have listed between $10 and $25 million
Yes, 'cause
with their
those-
glossy photos. Those are aimed right at those
Wow.
those newly minted Twitter millionaire and billionaires. Good luck.
Though that
Happy
stock
buying.
went, though those stock went down 10-15%, they bought that stock for $1. And what was it selling for? Do you know?
Yeah.
$20, $30
Yeah.
dollars a stock. So they made out very well.
They did.
Amazing. We're going to go to our second commercial break again. The theme is the Beatles. Who was the drummer before Ringo Starr, sometimes referred to as the fifth Beatle? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Who was the drummer before Ringo Starr, sometimes referred to as the fifth Beatle? Make sure to include your name and your email address. Speak slowly, please. Spell out your email one letter at a time. And don't touch that dial. When the Best of Investing comes right back, we've got some interesting emails for our co-hosts. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hunt and Catherine Harris, CPA. When we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question about the Beatles. Who was the drummer before Ringo Starr, sometimes referred to as the fifth Beatle?
My question is, did he get any of the royalties? Did he?
I don't think so. But
Pete Best.
No.
No?
Pete Best.
Pete Best. Oh, okay. All right.
No.
That was close. I had the E's right.
Yeah, you should just said best. Okay.
Like best of investing.
That's right,
Yes.
exactly. Anything to do with best is the best. Okay. Catherine, we received an email here that's right up your alley. It says, when looking for a CPA firm, should I choose one that charges by the job or by the hour?
It really comes to your comfort level, but at the end of the day, I've come to find out that really, at the end, it usually washes out to be about the same price. People who are charging by the hour, it's usually, if you've got a more complicated return, it's because you've got more forms that have to be filled out,
Yeah.
and it takes more time. So people who are going to be charging you by the form is going to be charging you more per form, or
Which will still take more per hour,
which
basically.
takes more
yeah.
per hour. They built into how much time it takes to complete a form. So their form, the amount they charge per form is going to be higher or more.
But you're not allowed to charge like performance-based, are you?
You're not allowed to charge performance based, which means you have an ethical CPA.
Yeah, there you go.
Although I've done both, so I have a CPA that obviously charges by the hour, not obviously, but he charges by the hour for consulting and questions, what I call them. But there was, for our mortgage pool fund, I was actually getting competitive bids, a fixed price for doing it, because again, I wanted to save. I wanted it to be as cost effective for the fund, and so for its first return, I remember calling up a bunch of them and getting price bids. So I guess.
But you can't do it performance-based. Like if we get you a larger tax refund, we'll give you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Invent some
But I
deductions.
imagine you weren't getting from the same CPA firm. It's usually a CPA firm has a policy of we just
One
charge
or
by
the
the
other.
hour, or we charge per the forms, number of forms that are filed. But I would be surprised if they're pretty comparable. I mean, they're usually the ranges are within depending on the size of the individual or the form. Or
How does Parati and Crowd do it?
we charge by the hour.
Okay.
There we go. And so, depending on the case, though, we will work with somebody. If it's a flat rate, we can work with them and have a flat rate.
Do people call you and ask for a not to exceed price?
Not for tax returns. We are full service. So we do not just that. We also do bookkeeping services and attest services. Bookkeeping services we also do on an hourly basis.
And a test would be.
Attest is usually where we get to not to exceed in the fixed prices.
You might have to explain that to the audience.
So attest services are for clients. Usually it's going to be for nonprofits or businesses, S corps, C corps, LLCs, limited partnerships, where they have to have an audit or a review or a compilation, and it's usually governed by something in a loan document. It may be a law that requires it. We do.
I mean, they don't trust their own clients to
Well-
prepare their Quicken or books.
Yes,
or
exactly.
QuickBooks?
Please let me borrow money from you. I have all these assets and no debts.
Exactly. See, it's on this napkin right here.
Yeah, exactly. And same thing for, really I like to talk about as nonprofits, is you hear in the news how there misappropriation of,
Oh my
of
gosh, all
nonprofit
the time.
assets. And great thing that California has implemented is if you have a nonprofit that's got more than $2 million, it has to be audited. And you should
Yeah.
ask that. When you look for donations to nonprofits, is see if they have an audit. Look at their audit. Look at their tax returns.
That's a really good point, because a lot of times people who are on the board of nonprofits, it's usually just they're doing it as a favor because they just love the organization. They're not getting paid this nice big salary, so they kind of
Not
just
allowed to.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. So they're just putting in their hour a month or whatever period, and they're just like, well, we just trust whoever is in charge, and boy, you can
Yeah, there
really run into
was a
trouble.
recent article about
Yeah.
a gentleman who they trusted their executive, and the executive gave them bank statements that weren't exactly accurate and got away with a lot. And the board, you have to understand that for nonprofits, the board is fiduciary, I can't say the word today.
Fiduciarily.
That is a hard one.
That is a tough one, yeah.
Fiduciarily responsible
Wow.
to some degree. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to be egregious for them
Yeah,
to really be
Yeah,
responsible.
but can you imagine being on the board? Like, hey, Joe, you want to be on the board of this thing and this nonprofit? Because we know you love the symphony as an example, right? And then suddenly, oops, you're slapped with a lawsuit because the bookkeeper stole a bunch of money. And
I was just coming to the board meeting.
yeah, exactly. I was having fun.
So we do that type of service as well, and we do it for nonprofits and for private as well, for private industry.
Okay. What name of your company is?
It's Parati and Karad. I'm Catherine Harris. I am the test manager, but we also work in tax as well.
And your office is located?
We're in Larkspur. We're
Okay, pretty
been
centrally
there,
located.
pretty centrally located. Where most of the partners in the firm are all from Marin, born and raised. We don't really go very far. We're CPAs. We're very. How dare you ask me to go and do something? Like they have our conventions in Las Vegas for a reason. They know we're not going to bet. They have us in like the farthest hotel possible because we're going to lose money. No one can dare go. I won like $80 and I walked away.
There you
I
go,
was like,
smart.
I won. Yes.
That's right.
That's funny.
But it's kind of nice because you're close to the Larkspur Ferry. You're not far from Northern California. Like Novato, and not too far from San Francisco. So
It's a good location.
Come visit you.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, we're going to cut to our thoughts for the day here. The characters Bert and Ernie on Sesame Street. You know where they came from? Bert the cop and Ernie the taxi driver in the movie It's a Wonderful Life. And in England, the Speaker of the House is not allowed to speak. Personally, I think this should apply to in the U.S. too, amongst all the politicians. All right,
Yes.
Tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long.